Well, reactions have continued to trail PDP's 2023 presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar's call on Nigerian opposition political parties to form a coalition ahead of the 2027 elections. Atiku, who was reacting to the outcome of the Senegal election, which produced the 44-year-old Bassirou Diomaye Faye as president of that country, has said one of the ways to unseat APC is for opposition political parties to unite into a strong coalition, as was the case in 2015, when the opposition rallied together to remove the PDP from power. Now, let's let you know that in 2014, the now defunct parties, the Action Congress of Nigeria (ACN), All Nigeria People's Party (ANPP), and Congress for Progressive Change (CPC), and other smaller political parties came together to form a coalition that ousted PDP government under President Goodluck Jonathan from office. Atiku's call also borders on Atiku, who was a member, I beg your pardon, of the merger committee that midwifed APC into a formidable opposition, has said, basically, this is in preparation for the 2027 elections. Now, there's another headline in one of the dailies that also talks about the president and also president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and some other individuals working to ensure that they retain their seats in office. That was in the headlines that we read earlier in the day. And I said, that's what politics is about. Right after an election is done, you start working towards, retaining your seat or grabbing power within in the next election. Well, we still have our in-house guest with us, Segun Shokwiton, who is Chairman, Accountability, Candor and Transparency Network. And we have Chukwuma Okoro virtually as well. He's a journalist and a public affairs commentator and has a background in conflict resolution. Yes. All right, Chukwuma, let me come to you now. We're talking about a government, first off, one set, those in power, trying to retain power. And one would ask, what are they doing differently? Is this retaining power regardless of how the people feel? Because there's a lot of outcry, there's a lot of Nigerians are complaining, and we are being told to, take it in, endure, things will be better. And then we have another group calling for a coalition. We know meetings have been ongoing, consultations have been ongoing. There is also that possibility that the Peter Obi might join the Atiku coalition. There is that possibility, in as much as it's not made open now. But is that what we should be talking about at this time? Looking at the fact that Nigerians are suffering, tremendous suffering is going on in Nigeria. Should we be concerned about forming coalition? Because if you look at it also, Atiku Abubakar has basically not even, been vocal about what is going on in certain states that the PDP holds strong. For instance, Rivers State. We haven't exactly heard Atiku talking about the trouble going on in Rivers State. Should we listen to Atiku right now? Should we listen to any of these political actors, really?
Okay, thank you, Moses. Moses, let me go forward from the back.
No problem.
Let me move forward.
I thought so.
Yeah, let me move forward from the back. Shegu, I quite understood the context in which you made the statements about grab it, snatch it, and run with it. I understand the context in which you made it, and you are talking about Nigerians running with good governance, snatching it, grabbing it, and running with it. But I also think that statement, from the context it was made, doesn't actually align with what we are looking at. I have no problems with what you said. good governance should actually be given. If you ask me, it should be given. It should not be snatched. It beholds the leadership, you know, to do what is right, what the people
should
need
be
to
requested. It should be asked for. I think that's what he meant by snatching.
It's never given.
You should be asked. You should ask for it.
It's never given.
No, it's a stronger word. Snatching is a stronger word than asking for it. It's a stronger word, you know. So I'm just trying to be very careful so that we don't give people the impression that grab it, snatch it, and run with it. You know, it's a good language to apply into our political lexicon. That's my concern.
Okay.
That's my concern about it. But I do understand that, look, civil society, citizens should engage with the government. And I did say quite a number of times that we need to hold our leaders to account. And how do we do that? By engaging with them. Right from the world level, you know, up to the local government, state and national level, we should hold our representatives at the national level to account. That said, what is happening now is like, it's normal in politics, you know, it's normal in politics for the people in power to wanting to retain power, you know, and it is also normal for the opposition in any way they can to regroup to say, look, these people that are here have messed things up. So what we need to do is to coalesce muscle power and wrest power from the people in government. You know, the duty of the government is to highlight what good they have done to society, while it is the duty of the opposition to say, no, look at government is not getting it right. You know, they should have gone this way. So why don't, since they don't want to go this way, why don't we come in and go that way? So if Atiku Abubakar is calling for the opposition to coalesce and wrest power from the APC, it's in the right direction. And for people like Osita Okechukwu, you know, who responded to Atiku and said, well, were the conditions prevalent now are quite different for what happened in 2014 when the ACN, CPC, and APP merged to form the APC, broke into the ranks of the PDP, got a chunk of the PDP and joined to themselves to wrest power from the main PDP. I think the situation now is even more dire than what we had in 2014. As at that 2015, when the national election, when the general election was conducted, we had an inflation rate of 9.7%. What is the inflation rate as at the time Buhari left? It was 22.4%. What was our debt ratio in our national debt profile in the past 8 years? I think Jonathan left our debt at about 30-something trillion naira. What do we have today? 93.7. So if you look at all the economic indices, how many people were killed, how many people were massacred in cold blood under the Buhari regime? The thing moved from 30-something to 90-something thousand as at the time Buhari left. And these things have continued. So if there was a time Nigerian opposition need to coalesce to take power from the ruling government, it is now. It is now. The conditions are more ripe now than any other time. So, but you know that politicians, like I said, will say one thing or the other to defend themselves. And if you break it down, you discover that politics is all about the struggle between we and them, the us versus them. People who want to maintain the status quo and people who want the status quo to be changed. There is this always invisible friction. It's very constant, very persistent, you know, between people who want the status quo to remain and people who want to change. Unfortunately, our representatives in the National Assembly, instead of being on our own side, are on the other side of government. And somebody is saying that Akpabio should remain in the Senate for 8 years, that nothing is going to truncate his tenure and the president's tenure. So assuming we get to a state where inflation climbs up to 57%, as it looks to do, so we'll still retain this government because some people want to feather their nest and retain power at the cost of every other Nigerian. It doesn't happen.
Okay. All right.
Now, you made mention of the former Director General of Voice of Nigeria. I'm talking about Osita Okechukwu. Do you think, according to him, he says that this is not the time. So dethroning an incumbent president should not be a political pastime, but as a practical political consciousness to remove an underperforming administration. And then in his own term, he's of the opinion that this present administration is not underperforming. And we, like just what he gave us so many indices, said the debt, even the debt ratio, the killing of innocent people, the economic hardship and all that actually have been increasing. And all that. Now to you, Mr. Shegu, do you think that this present government should still be in power? Is it like, do you think, according to Okechukwu now, do you think they are not underperforming?
The taste of the pudding is in the eating.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're eating the pudding right now and it's not tasting very good. So, you know, if you ask me, if you ask Nigerians today, if you had the opportunity to run another election today, I think the outcome would be very clear and it will be easy. They will vote this administration out. That's my opinion. Okay. I may be wrong, you know, you never can tell. But if you look at the events of the last 10 months, I mean, it's unbelievable to think that this administration has been in power for just 10 months. You know, when you look at the turmoil that we've gone through in that short period. If you look at all of that, you find that it hasn't been a smooth ride. Okay. Now, some would argue that that may be inevitable, and I think that's the point of the likes of Osita, you know, and others who defend this government, to say that, well, there was a crisis on ground before we came on board, and you know, they're trying to paint a picture that we had the worst economic crisis in our history handed over to them, you know, and that's why we're where we are today. I beg to disagree. I think, yes, we definitely had economic problems and they needed urgent attention, especially from the fiscal side, from our budgeting side. But the action that was taken by this administration was self-inflicted. It wasn't forced on them by anybody. The subsidy removal was obviously, as we can now see, a patently wrong policy, ill-timed, ill-prepared, ill-planned, and ill-implemented. You know, and that is at the root cause of the problems that we're having today. You know, so for somebody to say that an administration that came on board and implemented policies without a clear plan should stay in office for 8 years is saying to Nigerians that we want to have 8 years of planlessness and hit and miss, trial and error policy management. It's not going to augur well. All
right, now talking about planlessness and, you know, all that, we could also recall that before the general election that happened in 2023, that was an attempt for measure for a coalition between PDP and then Konkoso, NNPP, and Labour Party. But that measure did not fall through. And now that Atiku Abubakar is calling on other political parties to form a coalition, do you think that what happened that made that particular measure not work before the 2023 election, do you see that repeating itself in 2027?
It will repeat itself in 2027. It will repeat itself in 2031. It will repeat itself in 2035.
And what I want to ask, how dare we have everything?
You know, because the things that drive the failures of these attempts remain actively in play. The only time that you find politicians coming together is when their interests align. So if they find that, oh, look, let's forget our differences, we need to come together, then it probably might happen. And that's what we saw in 2014, where, you know, these Nigerians, you know, the politicians read the mood of Nigerians and felt that Nigerians are desiring a change. And they felt they could take advantage of that. So they let their differences go for that moment. But we can now see that it was a marriage of strange bedfellows.
That's what it was called from the onset.
Because that arrangement, it fell apart. If you remember, the new PDP, in quotes, that was a part of that arrangement, they are almost every single one of those major characters are back to their tents. You know, so it's to your tent, O Israel, they achieved their objective and then they fell apart. You know, and I think that, you know, talking about this coalition now, it might work, but I have been involved at the highest level of the conversation surrounding this as a civil society player who has political leanings. And I can tell you that it's difficult. To get certain politicians to work together is very hard.
Why so? Is it because there's more greed now in the system? More personal interest, I'd rather say?
Yeah, ironically, you know, you would have thought that the desire to capture power, the desire to capture the treasury, if you like, would have overridden some other primordial interests. But I was surprised to find that some of those primordial considerations are very strong. The northern sentiment against the southeast is strong. You know, it's just not something we're going to wish away. I had conversations with top political leaders during the run up to this last election, and the things that I heard, you know, blew my mind. You know, so I think, you know, some of those things will still play a role, and it will take a very charismatic leader to get people to step aside from those things. And is Mr. Peter Obi that person? Is it Alhaji Atiku Abubakar? I am not so sure. You know, and I think that we'll find out in the course of the
days
coming.
to come.
Yeah. In the coming
All right,
months.
we're pressed for time, so let's get our concluding thoughts in. Chukwuma Okoro, would like you to drop on touch on things that we may not have touched on because of time, as you give us your concluding thoughts.
Okay, I think Shegu took it from my mouth, about the need for the opposition to coalesce and see how they can wrest power from the present government. But because if you ask me, the situation in the last 1 year makes it very imperative, for people to see how they can push away this government. If you look at performance, if you look at the performance index, within the past 10 years, this present government, in the interim, I don't know about what will happen tomorrow, but they have done so badly that, look, they should not exceed the minimum 4 years that is given to them. Every other thing has tumbled down, down the drain from the time they took office. So, and for people like Osita Okechukwu, let it be clear to him that, look, the time is even more, what is happening now is more dire for Nigerians to say, look, we are dissatisfied with what the government is doing, and they should stop giving us sound bites, to sound politically correct. And I like about what Shegu said again about the possibility of the opposition coalescing to wrest power from the APC. Under this arrangement, there are very strong factors that will not make it happen. And I'm very happy that he mentioned about the sentiment against the Southeast. I said it on Political Voice yesterday. It's like there's more like a conspiracy to shut out the Southeast from the presidency. It is very strong. And if we are living in denial, we are just doing a disservice to ourselves. All said, I think going from where we started, the government should be very careful, in how much they borrow. But above all, the whole thing boils down to the issue of corruption. If we have borrowed this money and we can't deploy them to the productive sector, this present government should look for a way to recover some of these monies, because the process is there. After how many years, we are still recovering the Sani Abacha loot. But again, the question is, all the loot that we recovered, what did we do with the loot? You understand that some of them have also been relooted. So it's everything. The leadership we have needs to be changed. Corruption, we need to fight corruption. Nigerians as a people need to engage, with the leadership, because at the end of the day, you see that it is even the ordinary Nigerians who support the leadership against themselves.
All right.
So people in the civil society organizations like Shegu should also include citizenship and political education in their menu, so that you can educate the citizens that, look, there is no need for you to take 10,000 naira today and suffer for the next 4 years. Civic and political education should come into their menu, not just responding or reacting to government policies. They should do the fundamental duty of educating the public.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Chukwuma Okoro, for your views and thoughts there. Shegun, do you have concluding thoughts as well? Well, when Chukwuma said something there, reminded me of a comment by one of our regular callers, where he said, I think Ola Additional, where he said, Adewale, Olegba. That's what has played out in the loot that Nigeria is, getting. Somebody stole it, and then we got it back. Other people have stolen it again. Unfortunately, sir.
I think that for me, my closing thoughts would be to appeal to the government, because they are the government of the day. We may disagree with how they've emerged, we may disagree with what they've done so far, but they are in government and they're going to be there, except, I don't know, what can change that? They're going to be there at least until 2027. So it's in our interest as a country for them to do well. So my appeal to them is to get the players, the actors to understand that the elections are over. Governance is now at play, and they should govern Nigerians for the good of Nigerians as quickly as they can. Playing to neoliberal economic ideologies will not get us there. Playing to the demands of the IMF and the World Bank because you are seeking popularity, acclaim, and legitimacy will not get us there. They should work for the good of Nigerian people. Fix power. Chukwuma has said something about corruption. You see this corruption issue, it will not go away until we deal with it. Because if you break down all of the issues that we're dealing with as a country, you find it sitting right at the bottom of it all. So fix corruption, fix power. If President Bola Ahmed Tinubu does only one thing and then goes away after 4 years or 8 years, if he fixes power, he will live as a hero. And when I say fix power, it's not rocket science. You can get Nigeria from the 5,000 megawatts distribution capacity we're at today. You can get us to 20,000 by 2027. It's not impossible. It's very possible and very doable. If he does that, I suspect he might even win a second term. And it might now be, a more popular victory. So my charge to them is fix power and fix corruption. If you do that, Nigerians will view you well.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Segun Shukbiton, who is Chairman, Accountability, Candor, and Transparency Network. And also Chukwuma Okoro, a journalist and a public affairs commentator. We thank you for your views and thoughts on the program. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll be going into business, entertainment, and sports. Stay with us.
From the views on the street,
we go to bed